right, hi everyone. I'm so happy that you guys are all here today. We do apologize for the delay. Beijing traffic, as I'm sure you guys know, is historically quite bad, and even as Yaleys, we're no exception to that. My name is LaShore, and we can go around and give a quick round of introductions. We're going to introduce our name, our major, and then what we tentatively are interested for doing when we graduate Yale. So my name is LaShore Kumar. I'm a junior at Yale, so a third-year student, and I'm a double major in biomedical engineering and economics, and I'll be working in the finance industry after college.
Hi everyone, I'm Greta. I'm also a junior, so third-year student like LaShore just mentioned. I'm studying global affairs at Yale, and I'm interested in working in public policy in the future.
Hi everyone, my name is Bala. I'm also a rising junior. I'm currently majoring in history and political science, and I'm interested in going into either international law or legal studies post-undergrad.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Kim. I'm a rising junior at Yale. I'm studying global affairs and statistics, and I'm either interested in finance or going into law school.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone, my name is Jason, and I'm a rising sophomore, so second year at Yale. I'm studying biology and sociology, and I'm tentatively going to medical school after graduation.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having all of us. My name is Brian. I'm a sophomore at Yale from Los Angeles. Rising junior from Yale, from Los Angeles, California, and I'm majoring in political science and psychology. My focus is mainly in public policy.
And hi, my name is Amanda. I'm also a rising junior, and I'm majoring in neuroscience, so I'm interested in going into the healthcare industry. And yes, LaShore and I will be helping co-lead this panel. So I think what we're gonna do is, I guess everyone can give more of an introduction on like the activities they do at Yale and like anything they might want to share. And then after that, we'll like open it up to like audience questions regarding anything you might be questioning about, like admissions into Yale, our Yale experience, future beyond Yale, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I can go ahead and get started discussing my extracurricular activities. So on Yale, I'm very multidisciplinary, and I think that's going to be a common theme for all of us. I'll start with the serious things. So I'm part of a healthcare consulting group called Global Strategy Consulting, or GSC. What we do is we work with healthcare companies, both big and small, and we really just help them solve some of their problems. So we finished up a project with the Hong Kong government not too long ago, where we work in their biotech sector, and as well as the American Cancer Society. Outside of that, I've worked in a variety of like finance things based at Yale. So I used to manage Yale's endowment, where we take portions of those returns and try to give it back to Yale organizations. And then I also was part of the startup culture at Yale. So as much as you may not think it's the case, Yale does have a really strong entrepreneurial culture. And so I was able to be paired up with a professor, and we built a company together starting 4 weeks into Yale. And so that took up a significant part of my first year. And then just for fun, I'm actually part of a music group on campus called Low Strung. We play rock music, but on the cello, believe it or not. So we are 12 cellos, and we'll actually be here at Yale Center Beijing in 3 days to perform. So I highly recommend you guys come watch us perform. But yeah, that's what I do in my free time.
Awesome. So one of the main things that I do on campus, I'm on the business team of the YDN, the Yale Daily News, which is the oldest college daily newspaper in the world. And so I'm on the business team on the internal affairs side for that. I'm also involved in some like social media and marketing stuff as the director of social media for 1701 Records, which is a student record label. So we help sign student artists who are musicians and help them like publish and release their music, which is really exciting. We also host like concerts for that. I'm also involved in Dwight Hall, which is a program that kind of works to connect New Haven, which is like the city that Yale is located in, to the university itself. So I'm a public school intern, and I help work at one of the public schools in New Haven, which is really exciting. And then I'm also involved in some like more fun extracurriculars. I play trumpet in the Yale Wind Ensemble. We just changed our name. And I'm also in the Yale Slavic Choir, which sings like music in different Slavic languages from different areas of the world. And yeah, I'm also involved in some of the like cultural groups on campus as well. I'm a member of the Rural Students Alliance and Asianish, which is like the cultural group for people who are part Asian and mixed.
Yeah, I'm also involved in a mix of both fun extracurriculars, but also more academic. At Yale, a big part of extracurricular life is centered around writing and editing. So the Yale has one of the best historical reviews, which if you're not sure what a historical review is, we just solicit undergraduate essays as well as graduate essays from different colleges and universities, and we essentially just read through them, we edit them, we work with writers on how to improve their history papers, and they publish them for both students and professors to read. I'm also involved in a lot of international journalism. I write for the Yale Globalist, I'm one of their editors. Every year we just publish a bunch of articles dealing with international relations, sustainability, international cooperation, a lot of partnerships with the United Nations as well. I also write for The Politic, which is the political studies undergraduate journal. And going just beyond writing and editing, I'm also involved in a lot of student governments. Currently, I'm president for Trumbull College, which, if you're not sure what Trumbull College is, it is one of Yale's 14 residential colleges, which are sort of like smaller hubs that are kind of microcosms of the Yale community. I'm also involved in a lot of the more Yale administration side. I currently am an intern for Jackson School of Global Affairs, which is Yale's kind of hub for international relations. And I also work a lot of different research jobs. So currently I'm researching a lot of media theory, as well as comparative international law at the Yale Law School. I'm also a faculty assistant there. And yeah, I enjoy my job there a lot, so Yale's great.
Yeah, clearly a lot of us are involved with the many activities on campus. I'm just going to narrow it down to 3. I'm the director of membership for the Yale Real Estate Group, so that's just our real estate investment club on campus. I'm a member of Yale Movement, which is our K-pop and hip-hop dance group on campus, which is always so fun. And then lastly, I am a worker for the Silman Buttery. So something that's really fun about Yale is that all the 14 residential colleges have something called the Buttery, which is a late night food bar for students. So students make ramen, milkshakes, ice creams, quesadillas, chicken nuggets at night. So like after you're studying, if you want a quick snack, you can go to the Buttery and you can chat with your friends and eat food and go back to studying in the library. So it's something that's really special at Yale, and I'm super happy to be a part of that.
Awesome. Along with everybody else, I think we also have a lot of extracurriculars, but I think my main extracurriculars are, firstly, I'm a cultural chair for the Chinese American Student Association on campus, so I'm pretty much involved with like hosting cultural events. And secondly, because of that, I'm also an incoming peer liaison for the Asian American Cultural Center, which just advises first-year students. And lastly, I also research with the Yale Neuroscience Department, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hi. In terms of my extracurriculars, I am the head peer liaison for the Asian American Cultural Center, which means that I'm the person overseeing all 14 undergraduate helpers who are assisting first-year students who are transitioning from high school life into college life, but specifically focusing on Asian or Asian American students. On top of that, the program that we're all here for is Wyman China, which is the Yale Modern United Nations program that's held in Shenzhen, China. We were just there last week, but I'm the head of the program as well. And yeah, those are some of my extracurriculars.
Great. And for me, as I'm a neuroscience major, similar to Jason, I also do research in the neuroscience department. So last summer I got the opportunity to pursue a fellowship with my lab. So I spent the entire summer in my lab doing research on mice. So that's, my lab works with mice, so I do a lot of work with mice. But yeah, outside of that, related to healthcare, I'm also a volunteer at the Yale New Haven Hospital, and I volunteer in the pediatrics department. So what I do is I go in and I work with a lot of the kids that are in the neuroscience and short stay units at the hospital. Outside of that, I also play viola. I'm a member of the Yale Symphony Orchestra, which is one of the biggest music groups we have on campus. And I'm also a member of Yale Club Running, which is our long distance and short distance running group on campus. I think, do we want to open it up to audience questions? If anyone has any questions about what we're studying or any extracurriculars that we're pursuing, how we got into Yale, anything related to that.
Yeah, so I just wanna mention this. So I just noticed a few Yale freshmen, so incoming freshmen. So who is class of 30s. So yes, please maybe introduce yourself a little bit to the audience, and also you have questions as well. So please.
Okay, yeah, hello. I'm Joshua. I'm incoming freshman class of 2030, and my intended major is CS. But I do have a question for just anyone in general. Regarding lab opportunities on campus, I was wondering, what is the process like at Yale to join a research lab? Because I really want to pursue research, but I don't know how to start. Just cold email a professor, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think generally, in comparison to a lot of other elite institutions, Yale research labs are super open to inviting undergrads to participate. So yeah, I think what I did, and probably what Jason and other people did too, is just go on the website of a department you're interested in. So for example, if you're a CS major, you probably want to do CS research. So you can just look through the website of all the professors that have labs and the kind of work they're doing, what their culture seems like, and if it seems like it's aligns with your interests and what you want to do in a lab, then you can just email the professor. And I emailed maybe a 5 to 10, and I got a couple responses, and you can talk with the professor and figure out whether this interest aligns in reality. But yeah, I would say there's pretty good people are very open about responding to undergrads and undergrads joining their lab.
Yeah, definitely echoing what Amanda said. I think that Yale really provides a unique opportunity for undergraduates to engage with research. So just to add on to what Amanda said, I would also say if you're looking for research, to look across different departments too. I think that there's a lot of professors in neuroscience who would do more computational research that you might be interested in, and just emailing and then setting up a time to chat and talking to the advisor or the head person who's doing the research to see if it's a good fit.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Wendy Chen, and my intended majors are neuroscience and classics. So I sort of have a question to Amanda. So I'm wondering about some employment prospects for neuroscience majors. Do a lot of people go into medical school, or?
That's a really great question. Because as a neuroscience major, I started out as pre-med, and I think you'll find that almost all of the neuroscience majors you'll meet are pre-med, which means that they're intending to go to medical school. So for me personally, I think that journey for me was, I think I did a lot of discovering and exploring throughout my Yale journey so far. So kind of the middle of last semester, so midway through sophomore fall, I realized that I didn't really want to pursue medical school. And so after that, I would say I'm a neuroscience major, but not pre-med. And a lot of people would be okay, so what's your job prospect? What are you going to do? And I think honestly that's something I'm still exploring, and I think Yale has a lot of support in terms of that. So we have a lot of career fairs, a really large alumni base. You can look through all previous graduate and neuroscience majors and kind of the industries they're involved in. So for me currently, I think I definitely want to work in something related to healthcare, but instead of being a doctor, I want to work more behind the scenes. So it could be healthcare consulting, which is a very popular industry for Yale grads. But it could also be something like biotech or pharma, or doing work behind the scenes for a hospital, healthcare management, as opposed to being a doctor, which is frontline facing the patient. But I don't know if that answers your question. But yeah, the moral of the story is I feel you do a lot of exploration throughout your time at Yale, and you'll find out about so many jobs that you didn't initially think existed, and that's just one part of the process.
Thank you so much. That sounds really cool. And I sort of have another question. Are double majors common at Yale? I have the feeling that it really is, and I'm hoping to double major in neuroscience and classics.
Yeah, so to answer your question, it is very common. Also, neuroscience and classics, I've never heard of that before, so good luck, you got that. It's a really interesting course. But to quickly explain, the way that Yale College structures our program is in order to graduate from Yale with a degree, just a degree, you need 36 credits. And we do it really simply. 1 credit is 1 class. So you need to take 36 classes during your time at Yale in order to graduate with a degree. Roughly, that's split into thirds. So a third of it is dedicated to your major. So let's say if you were just a neuroscience major, a third of it's going to be for neuroscience. Another third of it is going to be for what we call distributional requirements. So these are courses that every student needs to take regardless of their major. For example, at Yale, every student has to take a language of some sort. Every student has to take a quantitative course of some sort. So that's that second third. And then the final third are just exploratory classes. So maybe you're really interested in K-pop, Lauren's taking in Yale movement, so maybe you're really interested in K-pop. You can take a K-pop course or something. And these don't really help you or hurt you. It's really just for you to explore. But if you know you don't want that exploration, you can sub out that third for another major really easily. So by nature of being a double major, you're not taking any more or less work. You're just swapping it out for something else. So in short, it's really easy, and that's why many people are double majors at Yale.
That's great to know.
I'd also add on to what LaShore said about double majors. A lot of classes at Yale are also cross-listed in that they fulfill the requirements that LaShore lined out with more than one department. So if you're interested in classes in neuroscience, because there's a language requirement at Yale, you can fulfill that language requirement with required classes for classes with Greek or Latin. I would say that I come from a classical background as well. Like I've taken classics classes, and the department is phenomenal. They really do work with you. Every department has a departmental advisor or a director of undergraduate studies that'll work with you to personally plan out your schedule. So when I was doing like my history of political science, like we sat down, we outlined my entire schedule. So it is very much doable, and there is still room to explore beyond those two majors. You can tack on certificates, and I'm also pursuing like 2 certificates. So there's a lot of like different areas of Yale you can touch through your coursework.
I also wanted to add on, like a lot of Asian universities, you apply to a specific department, so mechanical engineering, and you're kind of told to stay within that department. You can't really double major unless you're accepted to this separate department as well. That's not the case for Yale. It's very, very flexible. Some other universities, like Cornell, for example, has a separate engineering school, so you'd have to like apply to double major within like the other colleges within Cornell as well. But Yale is very, very flexible, so you should not have like any difficulty double majoring at all. So.
Cool. That sounds really amazing. Thanks so much.
Any question? I mean, question can be in Chinese. I mean, it doesn't matter regardless of the language. And I just wanna say hello to all the Yalees here. So my name is Peter Wen. I'm the Associate Director for Yale Center Beijing. So I haven't got a chance to say hi to all of you, so just want to say welcome to Yale Home in Beijing.
Thank you.
So maybe, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a high school student from Beijing, a high school around here, and I'm a rising junior, so about to go to the 11th grade. One thing, I don't think it's like really specific now because I don't even know if I could get a minute here, but what is like the biggest challenge that you had when you came before college that you feel Yale isn't really able to help you with or make you feel better about?
Yeah. I think one thing or misconception I had in high school was that I had to have all the answers, and I think maybe that's also a really common experience for all of us. In high school, kind of my biggest goal was, I need to get accepted into the best possible school I can. And so a lot of it was really just being in a constant grind during high school, trying to see what's the next big thing that I can do. And any doubt that I had was kind of seen as a negative connotation, right? Where I had to have just one path, no questions asked. When I came to Yale, I finally was able to get to this place that I dreamed of. I realized very quickly that at Yale, it's okay to not know what you don't know. In other words, if you don't have the answer to something, if you don't know what you want to do, if you don't know what you want to, if you want to go to grad school, if you want to get a job, what that job is, it's completely okay. And I think there's 2 things to that. Number one, really just the way that Yale is designed to where you don't even need to declare a major till the end of your second year. Like, in that structure, that's one part. But the other thing is just the Yale community in general. I think as Yalees, we really do look out for each other, and we have less of this culture where you see at some other elite institutions where you have to have all the answers listed out. And so that was something that really helped and changed for me, where it's like, it's okay to not know what you don't know.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. I was gonna add on to literature. I think one thing that for me in high school, I was very independent. I did everything by myself, like the application process I navigated on my own. And I think one thing that I was afraid of coming to Yale was, I'm not gonna know anything. Or know how to navigate the institution itself. And I think one thing that Yale does a really good job is asking for help. And I think if you don't know the answers, that's okay, but you need to be able to ask for help and find someone or something that knows the answer to it. And so whether that's the Yale community in this case or my peers, if I don't know an assignment or I need help with an assignment, I can go to them and be like, hey, I really need help with something, can you show me how it's done? Or if it's looking for research opportunities and finding faculty advisors or peer mentors that can assist you, that is all provided to Yale and it's encouraged. Like it's not, there's no one trying to gatekeep things or trying to keep things for themselves. It's a true community in the sense that everyone is there to help each other and there are multiple ways for you to find help. And so I think asking for help is something that I personally really developed through my undergraduate experience so far and relying on the people that I surround myself with.
Sure, thanks so much. That was really helpful.
Just give me the mic.
So I want to ask that, did you participate like any sorority or fraternity or anything? If you did, then how did you balance the studies and the activities?
Yes, no, that's a great question. I think when a lot of people think about Yale, they think that it's this intense, super brutal, like always like you're in the library studying, which a lot of people at Yale are, but I think what Yale has is like an amazing community that people want to spend time with, and I found that community through joining a sorority at Yale. I'm an Alpha Phi sorority member, and essentially it's just a group of girls and we just talk, we hang out, we have a house together, and it's just a great extension of the Yale community in that, as I mentioned earlier, like with residential colleges, there's just microcosms of the broader Yale community. I think people at Yale, they're actively seeking to meet new people. So sororities and fraternities are just another extension of an avenue that people pursue in trying to meet new people that they may not otherwise have a chance to meet during like their classes or any other time at Yale. But yeah, I think it's a great part of the Yale culture.
Speaking more to your question on like how you manage the time related to that, I'm also involved in Greek life at Yale, and I would say I don't think that people who are involved in Greek life tend to be spending more time on social activities than other students. I think it's actually been really helpful for me because it's almost like scheduled in time for that. So if I have like a commitment for like the Greek life organization that I'm in, it's like a time to hang out with my friends that's like put into my schedule. And so I think that kind of makes it really convenient, especially for students who are super busy with so many different commitments, to be able to make sure to also spend time socializing and doing things with another group of people that you might not otherwise get to meet.
Yeah, I think overall, like, you'll find that in the culture of Yale, it's definitely, like, very work hard, play hard, which is, like, obviously people are very smart and academically inclined, but at the same time, like, Yale really cultivates a lot of social life and, like, you make a lot of great memories through doing things like this, which is, like, coming to China and traveling as a group, and, like, you typically wouldn't associate that with, like, being a neuroscience major or, like, stats major, but it's like just a part of the social life that makes like being a Yale student so like well-rounded, I think.
Thank you. That's so cool.
我有个问题，就是已经是11年级的学生了嘛，然后因为11年级的课程有难度，所以目前呢11年级的这个 GPA 不是特别的理想。那么现在也面临申请的关键时刻。 可以做的还有哪些呢？
Okay, so basically she says that like, for example, if you're a junior year student and you're like, obviously the academic load is very intense and like maybe that like brought your GPA down, is there anything you could do to like solve that or like anything that could do to help your Yale application in terms of that?
Yes. Or
High school junior.
I would say it is very much dependent on your school, your high school. I would say definitely recommend figuring out the different point values that high schools have, because as I understand, there's different grading scales. And at that point in junior year, I think it is a very good time for you to reflect on how you can improve academically, what are study strategies, what are that, but also like looking at the class structure yourself, like what is not working in the class schedule, how can you maximize your time to where you're fulfilling both your basic needs and like having time to really study and rest, plus balancing classes. But I think just being able to work that out schedule-wise and then figuring out how your classes can be maximized in a way that you personally are being fulfilled, but also trying to get a better grade. I think that is the best avenue that one can see.
Also, grades are, they are a baseline, but they're not the only part of the application, right? You still have your essays, your recommendation letters, right? Your ECs. These are like, Yale has a holistic admissions process, so like, they're not going to judge you just based on your test scores, which is I think something that's more commonly seen in college applications in Asia, but it's not the only part of your application. So I think if other elements of the application are able to shine, that could make a better, well-rounded candidate.
Yeah, I want to add on. I want to add on to that just because I know we're not allowed to give like our specific numbers, but I could tell you my GPA was not a 4.0 when I applied to Yale. And I think one thing that really helped me is like the essays that were in there. I think like when you are writing your essays as a whole, you should be really strategic and really intentional about what information you're deciding to give to the admissions officer. As someone who met my admissions officer, I can assure you, like, if the admission officer had a choice, they would want to admit as many students as possible. That just isn't the case, and so being able to give as much information as possible. So when you're writing your essays, making sure that each essay isn't repeating any themes, but showing different sides and elements of you is really, really important because you want to give as much information as possible to the admissions officer to make a case for you to be you or your child to be admitted. So I think really being intentional with what you put in your essays is super important.
Going off of that, like Lauren said, it's just one part of your application. But I think like we can say candidly, like of course these things do still matter. And so there are some things that you can do strategically to kind of like improve your chances, I'd say. So like Bryant said, that one part of the application in the essay section, if there are specific things that you struggled with in high school and that inhibited you from having better grades during, especially if it's like a specific time of the year, if you were going through some personal loss or something, there's an additional information section in your application, and there you can like disclose kind of that you were struggling with that and that's why that may have affected your like application. And so I think that can be a helpful way to like let the college know about things that you were struggling with specifically. And then the other thing is if it's specifically your GPA that's lower, you can kind of offset that by studying really hard for standardized test exams, so the SAT or the ACT. If you have a really good score on that, then that also helps like verify your story in your application where you can explain like, I maybe didn't do very well in this class because I had a lot of stuff I was dealing with at the time, but as you can see, I'm able to do well and perform well academically. That also goes vice versa. So if you were like, have really, really good grades, but then not a great standardized test score, you can explain that like you maybe didn't have the time with like jobs or other extracurriculars to be able to study really hard for these exams over the summer, but you clearly are able to perform well during school. And Yale is also test flexible, which means that we require standardized. No, we are like.
Not even they changed it.
They require standardized tests, but you can just submit APs. You don't have to submit ACT or SAT. I wrote an article for this like last summer. Or this.
Regardless.
Okay, look into that definitely. But at least last year, you are required to submit some standardized tests, but that might not have to be the SAT. So if you don't do well on that, there are like other options for you.
Hi, I'm a parent. Welcome everybody to Beijing. And I have a question regarding the application process. I know, and I don't want you to share your GPAs or your SAT scores, but I'm interested and I'm curious to see if you are able to share your topics or your subject of your personal essays, which might, you think, enrich your opportunity to get into Yale. Would you like to share that?
Great. I guess one question I have for you, is your child getting ready to apply to Yale? Are they junior, senior, just interested?
Well, I have two kids. One, my older kid is already in college. He's a junior.
Okay.
He's at NYU. But my second one, he's still in grade A. I don't think he's ready for the application yet. But personally, I'm curious about all the topics or subjects you wrote that you think draw admission officers' attention to you.
Sure. No, it's a great question. The reason I ask is because if your child was getting ready to apply for college next semester or next year, they would know that the personal statement is a 650-word essay. Just for those who don't know, it's a 650-word essay that can be over quite literally any topic of your choice. And so, ironically, what I wrote my personal statement about was actually a bottle of water. During high school, one of the kind of weird things that I did, but I thought that was really about myself, very personal, as the name suggests, was I used to collect bottles of water. So one of the things that I would do was I noticed that even though something as simple as water was pretty much the same, there still are dozens of brands out there. And so one of the things that my dad and I used to do back in high school was every time we would go do a trip together and we would see a new brand of water. We would go and spend $3-4 to try to buy it and see if we could taste any difference. And I think also on top of that is because it was very authentic, very personal to myself, you're able to get a very distinct story out of me. Like I seriously doubt that there were other students out there who were writing about their water bottle addiction. And the other cool part about it is even though it's 650 words, my personal statement was 300 words long. So you can do whatever you want to show your authentic self. And I know it can be very frustrating, right? We're not the first people who are talking about college admissions, but it can be pretty frustrating to say, oh, do what you want, be personal, be authentic. But at the end of the day, it really is just that. I wrote a 300-word bottle of water essay because it was authentically the shore and not something contrived or fake. And so whatever you can do to achieve that and really show an admissions officer how you uniquely are going to be contributing your perspective to Yale, that'll do the job.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can go. I think jumping off where LaShore ended, your essay is so critical to how the admissions officers view you. And I think people don't think of the personal essay as something that's standalone. Like your personal essay, when your admissions officers reads it, is reading alongside the variety of other essays you're reading for your college. So I think it's so important that your personal essay reveals a facet of yourself that the other essays don't. And so with that mindset, I knew for sure what I didn't want my personal essay to be about, and that wasn't going to be about my academics, it wasn't going to be about my extracurriculars. So instead, I focused a lot on my personal cultural identity. And I am Nepali American, so my essay ended up being about hiking in Nepal, visiting my family there, living in a monastery there for 2 weeks, hiking the Everest circuit, hiking around Nepal. So in the end, what my essay revealed about me was my values, and my values was family oriented. It was about exploration, but with my family. And so I think that reveals something that my interest in classics, my interest in global affairs, my interest in history, it was just so different from that I think that's what made my personal essay so special.
I want to add on to my peers. I think a lot of people try to focus on what they're talking about in the essay, but I don't think that's very important, is my take. The admissions officers have seen so many essays, and I genuinely think there's not been a topic that hasn't been written about. I don't know. I just think kids are very creative, and especially trying to get into these very elite institutions, people will write about the most creative things, but I can guarantee you, I think an admission officer has already read an essay on that topic. I think it's more about what does that essay add to your application. If you were to summarize that essay with 1 or 2 words or 1 sentence, what does it say about you? I think that is the main takeaway, because they're reading so many of these essays that they have to just summarize and gauge what type of person you are from the essay. So don't think about what you're writing about, think about how it adds to your application and what it says about you as a candidate, if that makes sense.
I'll go off that because this is something that I talked a lot about potential applicants as an admissions ambassador. A lot of people tell you when you're writing your essay, like you were saying, you want to show different sides of yourself that aren't shown throughout the application, etc. And another big thing that they say is to show, not tell. And so one thing that I found really helpful for me to strategize as I was writing my essay is to start. I just thought of a list of characteristics about myself that I think are good and that I think could add to Yale or would be seen as helpful to them. And as this is kind of hard to do, something that you can do is also ask your parents or your friends, what are good qualities about me that you think would make me a good student? And so these things could be hardworking or curious or things like that. And I wrote down what those characteristics were. And then I started thinking I was thinking for more funny stories, but small anecdotes that kind of demonstrate that. And so what's in a time that I was hardworking and how is that shown in a way that's also a good story? And then based on that, you can kind of write your essay and ensure that you're not literally telling them those things, but kind of showing them through your application. I think a lot of people say you could write your essay about literally anything, and I think any of us could have chosen 10 other topics and probably still gotten into Yale because it's about the way that you write about it. Obviously you want to be writing well, but also about the characteristics that you're showing through that. And so for me, I ended up writing about one of my earliest memories. I grew up on a farm, and so talking about working there as a child.
Yeah, and I think another important part that we didn't necessarily cover is outside of the main essay. Another really important supplemental essay is the Why Yale essay. In fact, during our admissions visit, like sequence of days, Bulldog Days, like they have an event where they like read out some of the prompts of what people responded to for the YL essay. So I think that shows like how much the admissions officers care about your specific interest in the school you're applying to. And this is not only Yale, like I think a lot of schools, maybe NYU too, I forgot, but like a lot of other colleges also like have like, oh, why this college essay? And I think like after the like going through the entire college application process, what I realized is that like in addition to like being super qualified, what colleges are looking for is like your specific interest in that school. Because I think a lot of people are like applying to like maybe over 20 schools, and it's sort of hard. You sort of lose sight of like, oh, why do I want to go to Yale versus like Harvard or Princeton or whatever. So I think like really doing good research into Yale specifically and like why you're interested in the resources that Yale has to offer could also add a lot to your application.
Got another question from students, looks like.
So good night, and I am also a high school student, which is a parent, and I'm just about to get into like grade 11 in this September. And the question that I'd like to ask is, what is one of the most valuable things that like you've done when you were in high school? I hope this is not really offensive question, since like, would you like to share any of your stories with me? Like, apart from your identity as a Yale student, I do really want to know about yourself. Like, thank you.
Wait, so you asked about like what is our most valuable high school memory?
Yeah, sort of.
Can I ask, do you mean valuable in terms of just like for our emotional self, or valuable in terms of our application and getting into Yale?
Perhaps your emotional self. I hope it is not offensive.
Oh yeah, not at all. I feel like we can go down and all answer if everyone can think. I can go first. I think that actually also has a lot to do with what I tried to focus on within my application for Yale. But yeah, as I said before, I'm a viola player and I play in the orchestra, and I started playing viola when I was in 3rd grade, so it's been like a really big part of my life. And I think like one of the most meaningful high school experiences I had was that I attended an arts camp the summer after my sophomore year of high school. It's called Interlochen Arts Camp. It was basically a 7-week camp in like the middle of nowhere in Michigan, and all I did all day, every day was play my viola, like whether it be like solo practice, playing in orchestra, chamber music, master classes, like literally for 7 weeks I was just playing viola. And I think that was like the first and probably only time in my life that I was surrounded by music like so much for so long. But yeah, I just remember I wrote a lot of my supplemental essays about this, but the very last day of that camp was like we had our final concert. And I remember me like having to say goodbye to like all my fellow campers and like people I'd been playing music with for the past 7 weeks. And I just realized like how much they meant to me. And I think that was the first time like I felt so emotional about leaving somewhere and leaving people that weren't like my home in Seattle. So yeah, I wrote my essay about that and just tied that into like music and like how music establishes connections between people. And I think that like kind of shows like a more emotional side of like my high school experience. That's not just like, oh, grades and test scores and stuff.
Yep. Yes. Oh. Yes. Oh, okay. First off, that was a very great question. I think for me, the most impactful or most like rewarding thing that I got to do during my high school experience is work at my mom and dad's dry cleaner. So my mom and dad own a dry cleaner, and every single day after school, after my extracurriculars, I would walk to my mom and dad's store and work there. So whether and I wrote my essay on this actually about like what it means to fold clothes every day and iron clothes and wash clothes, not just for yourself, but for like people who are coming to the store and what those interactions were like. But I think to me what was most rewarding was that my mom and dad didn't go to college before immigrating to the States, and being able to work with my mom and dad as still someone who is a first-generation American, but also like going to high school, still trying to navigate the college process, but still being able to take care of your mom and dad in a way that isn't like, oh, I'm physically taking care of them, but like I'm going there to go work with them. And then obviously now being at Yale, I think it's like something that I look back on a lot, because I think about like what my mom and dad sacrificed to like get me to that point, but also just generally like what those things taught me. And so adding on to like the previous question about essay topics, the essay topic that I wrote about was what folding clothes meant to me in terms of like the discipline that comes with it, but also just like the experiences that are associated with working at a dry cleaner.
Yeah, that was a really great question. I just want to echo that, and I think as you can hear, we did I think one of the main things, like still going back to the essay question, is that we've done like a lot of like deeper thinking about like what we're doing. So I think that that's really helpful. But I think one of my like most impactful experiences and what made me like kind of start doing this introspection is like in high school, my primary like extracurricular was doing debate. So like every weekend I'll be on like a different college campus. Like we'll be at Yale or I'll be at Princeton. And we're just talking about these like very nuanced ideas about politics and what certain things and how like public policy has impacted people. And I think that like because you have to be able to like convey your point in a concise way, it kind of makes you think about like how and why words matter and like what you say on your essays and the words that you choose really matters. And I think being able to talk to different people and get to know their life stories is one of the most like meaningful parts of like doing debate, but also one of the most meaningful parts of like being at Yale. So yeah, that was my
I think there are so many, but I think one activity that I was that took up a lot of my high school time was my swim team. I think I swam like 18 to 24 hours a week during the swim season every single year of my high school. And so obviously swimming and any sport teaches you discipline, grit, perseverance, but also I think seeing my teammates go through highs and lows and like knowing how to support every team member when they needed the support and how to comfort them and push them towards their best selves. I think that was like a community that I learned so much from during high school.
Oh, wow. That's a great question, I wanted to say. I think during my time in high school, one of the most valuable things that I did was work at a hospital. So my high school was a bit different in that it was a very pre-med high school. So I spent the last 2 years, instead of doing like normal classes every day, I spent them at a hospital. So I was at the hospital like 4 or 5, 6 hours a day, like every other day for like almost like 2 years. And I worked in the emergency medicine department, and it was such a hectic way to learn about the medical field. I was seeing people who were like being driven into the hospital straight out of a shooting. I saw people who were dealing with like bouts of sickness and alcoholism, and I worked with patients who were pregnant, and I saw all these different patients from all over the city, just with all these different ailments. I think being able to talk to them, hold their hand, like in their worst moments of their life possibly, or their best, and being able to talk with them, figure out what was going on with them, take their vitals, and do my medical work on site, know them as a person. I think that life skill was one of the most valuable things I learned in my high school time, because it translated so much into how I approach conversations at Yale, how I approach conversations in everyday life. So I think that was like super valuable to me.
Thank you. Amazing question. And my answer is actually pretty similar to like some of the things that these people have been saying as well. I think my biggest extracurricular, like time-wise commitment in high school was like different like front of house service jobs. And I think this was something that was really important and valuable to me, because a lot of these jobs, like as like a barista or a wedding caterer, I would be working like through really long hours, because I would often do like back-to-back shifts on weekends, and then also work after school most days. And I'm someone who like, I think of myself as being a little bit more socially anxious. Like I have a harder time talking to people, but I don't think that a lot of people think of me that way. And I think it's because throughout these jobs, I've been encouraged so much to like, you have to like talk to customers, and you have to like know how to interact with them and have like small talk. And I think that's like a really, really valuable skill that isn't always emphasized quite as much. And so I think one like moment where I really realized like how awesome this is when I had a customer. I like was just like talking to him. After I got back, my boss, or like went back behind the counter, my boss was like, okay, so where did he go to high school? And I was like, oh, he went to Lansing, and now he goes to like this place, and now he works as a pilot. And he was like, wait, I was joking, like I didn't actually expect you to know where he went to high school. But it's just like really cool how deep these conversations, even for just a couple minutes, can get. And so I think this skill was probably like the most valuable experience throughout high school.
Yeah, I'll finish it off. I actually had a music answer and a debate answer, so it's gonna sound like I'm copying one of them, but I'm gonna go for the music answer. So I play the cello. Like I said, in a few days I'll be back here. I'm from Texas. In Texas, we have this program called All-State. Essentially, musicians from across Texas on all sorts of instruments, including cello, will prepare like short pieces of music to try to make a state-level orchestra. And so I played the cello since I was 6 years old. Clearly, it means a lot to me. And when I finally entered high school, I was able to be part of this all-state audition process. And so in my sophomore year, because due to COVID, sophomore year was the first time it happened in person, I was lucky enough to make the orchestra. And what's really cool about All-State is that even though these musicians are coming from all over Texas, we're really only there for 3 days together in San Antonio to try to put together this crazy repertoire of music. And I'll give a very specific example. There's this piece of music called Petrushka by Stravinsky. It's this ballet, and it's 45 minutes. It's just some of the most difficult, like niche music you'll ever hear. And I don't know why, but it's such a cathartic experience to, like, during these 3 days, to have all of these people from different backgrounds across Texas having different interests, but caring so much about all of these details in the notes that we were playing from hundreds of years ago. I remember there's this one part where Petrushka, which is a doll, falls on the ground, and we spent 30 minutes just trying to decide what was the right way to make that sound. And in a way, that really brought me back to like the reason I chose Yale, which is if we can have all of these people with the most crazy, amazing interests in a room, willing to build music together, I want to be at an institution that does that. And I think, at Yale we have people of so many different backgrounds, so many different interests, but the thing we all have in common with each other is we all are so dedicated to what we do. Somebody gave me the example where it's like at Yale, you can be a turnip farmer, but you're going to see the most dedicated turnip farmer you've ever seen. And so kind of my All-State experience really brought that for me with Petrushka. For you guys, it could be any number of things, but that's what was most valuable for me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, Lashore and Amanda. I also play violin. So I was actually wondering. So like, why did you like continue learning, like for example, cello or viola, even though you had like so much academic pressure throughout your high school years? Like, what do you think it means for you right now as like college students, and what do you think it has like brought to you as like not just a student, but like as a whole, like a human being? Like, what has music brought to you?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can go. That's a super good question. I think I'm like reflecting a lot on that now as I come into college, and I realize that like I might not have as much time as I thought I did to focus on music. So yeah, like I started Yale in 3rd grade. I think what really drove my passion for music was the fact that I was able to play with other people and play in an ensemble. Because yeah, I started out playing piano when I was really young, and I feel like as musicians, like a lot of time, like practicing is one of the hardest things to do, because it's like, oh my gosh, I have to practice an hour a day. It's so annoying and I don't want to do it. But I think after I started viola and I started playing in orchestra and chamber music, and I realized how fun it was to like be surrounded by all this like music around me. And then in turn, I was like, okay, in order for myself to enjoy orchestra playing and like chamber music playing the most, obviously I have to be confident in my own playing and sound the best. So that's what drove me to like practice more. And so throughout high school, I think practice became less of a, oh my God, something I have to do every day, to like, I actually really enjoyed practicing and like, just like pushing myself to be the best player possible. So yeah, now at Yale, I think like, I'm still part of the orchestra, but I've realized that like, I don't have as much time to dedicate for music as I originally hoped. But I think like even just being in the orchestra like as a part of my life, like I'm going to orchestra rehearsal like twice a week and like playing in concerts, it's a really great way to like de-stress and like find a balance between like academics and like extracurricular.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, music is really just a form of expression for people. I actually wrote in my Yale essay, or I wrote one of them, and I said music helps put into words what I can't. Because I think there's so many times where when you have stress and maybe your academic classes or other extracurriculars, whatever it may be, there's really no outlet, or there's not always a person for you to talk to, and sometimes you just don't want to talk to another person. And so, as cliche as it may sound, music was really that avenue for me where, I don't know, I could play some piece or be part of an ensemble, and all of the other things that came with it would allow me to have a really good way to de-stress. And so in Low Strung, we're 12 people. We don't play any classical music. We just play rock music on the cello, or like modern artists. We like even J cello we play on the cello. And so for me, it's really really fun because sure the music is great, and like I think we all love playing the cello. But more than that, I remember like the laughs that we have in between rehearsals, all the outings that we do, and all of that for me still comes under a music experience. So music for me is all about the expression that comes with it because of all of the non-music parts that come with it, if that makes sense.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, so I'm a middle school student, and if I want to go to Yale, like, what do I need to do?
So, can I ask how old are you and what's your name?
My name's Jillian.
Okay. And how old are you, Jillian?
12.
12. So you got a couple years ahead of you, but I like that you're very dedicated. So first thing, come to this next year, and you can just keep on coming, and you're gonna get more and more advice. But I guess for the time being, at 12 years old, I would say you really just need to explore. You may get different answers from other people, but I think at 12 years old, even if you were the most dedicated person ever, and you started building your college application right after this panel, things are constantly changing. You don't even know what you want. I don't think any of us knew what we wanted to do at 12 years old. So I think the best thing you can do is like, just quite honestly, just keep living, keep discovering, keep seeing what you like. If you see a Lego set that looks interesting, I don't know, go build it, do whatever. That's the best advice I would give.
Okay, thank you. And also, I have another question. So I feel like you have a lot of stuff to do, and like I feel like you are a lot like very stressed. So like, how are you like some like ways you can stay like really focused and just like do the thing you're doing and not think about anything else?
I think take breaks, so that way you can dedicate the time that you need to when you need to lock in. I think sometimes like going on like 5 to 6 hours like working straight is like impossible, and I think like it's very difficult to do. So knowing when to take breaks and when to spend time with your friends, your family, that's like the time to recharge. And I think that's really important because I think one thing that everyone here knows how to do is to lock in, but like we also know when to take breaks and to relax. And I think that's something that's super important. Like no one should have to work like 6, 7, 8 hours straight like studying. Like you should take breaks in between, like relax, talk to your friends, spend time with your family, eat food, sleep, or do whatever you need to do. But I think like taking breaks is something that I would definitely recommend to anyone like working or in school.
I personally am very active. I love being active. Like I swam in high school, I already told you that, and then I dance on campus. So for me personally, when I want to de-stress, I try to find some sort of physical activity. So I go to the gym, I dance, and so being part of the dance group on campus has really helped me de-stress. So that's how I de-stress. But I think the second thing that people should focus on is making sure the activities and the things that you're spending time on are fulfilling to you personally. If they're truly fulfilling and they make you feel good about yourself and your community and the people around you, it should help with stress and managing your time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like as a middle schooler, I think this applies to parents too, honestly. And I know like my parents, I like saw the way they like reacted to like raising my younger brother. So I kind of like have a more like, I guess, parenting perspective on this. But like, I think for a lot of parents, like when they think about like, oh, how do I get my kid into Yale? And like, oh, my kid's in middle school, I have to start preparing them for like this competition and that competition, and they have to do this sport and that sport and like this thing and that thing. I think honestly, like at the end of the day, like it's like, I don't know, there are different opinions on this, but I think my view is that like it's more valuable to be like less hands-on and just like let your like middle schooler like just figure out what they want to do. And obviously you have to like push them and challenge them and like put them in like places that like will allow them to grow. But at the same time, like if they're not enjoying the activities that you're forcing them to do, like it's not gonna have a positive result. So it's like, I think like really thinking about, oh, what does my kid actually want to do, and like striking a balance between like challenging them and like allowing them to explore themselves.
I also want to add on to that, like college admissions is so unpredictable and there's only so much you can do as a candidate to help shape your outcome. But like what is going to help your kid in the future to be successful is how they interact with others. Are they respectful? Do they know their values? Like how do they contribute to their community and the people around them? I think that no matter where they are, that will help them have a successful and fulfilling life rather than placing them at a top university and then just seeing how things pan out, because I think that's not the most important part. But
okay, thank you.
yeah.
So hi everyone, I'm currently a rising senior in high school. So now I'm just recently through school research and stuff and getting nervous. I came here because I really did research about Yale and I feel like it's one of like my top choices. And so I'm currently really interested in the Jackson School of Global Affairs and I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, so the Jackson School is really awesome. I'm sure as you've been doing research, you've found out. It's really cool because it's a graduate school, but there's also a lot of avenues for undergraduates to be engaged, and one of the main ways is through the Global Affairs major. So as an undergraduate, you have access to a career development office that's at the Jackson School, as well as a lot of faculty and classes and research opportunities through the Jackson School. So it's a really awesome way to kind of like get involved in those spaces as well during your undergraduate time. And the Global Affairs major is kind of special because in addition to like the major requirements that like most majors have, there's also a capstone project where you, well, it seems like you are nodding your head and you've done your research, but I would say that's a big reason why a lot of Global Affairs students, I mean, you can speak to this as well, choose the major itself. And that's like all done through the Jackson School.
Yeah, so I'm a statistics and global affairs double major, so like I'm more naturally like STEM inclined, but I also really enjoy like international affairs and history, and so I think that's why I chose this combination. And one of the things that really drew me towards the global affairs major compared to history or political science at Yale was because of the capstone project and our ability to engage with a nonprofit or like abroad with peers and really contribute to their mission. So that's the reason why I chose global affairs. But yeah, it's a really special major for sure.
Yeah, and the Jackson School is also really incredible because you don't have to be a global affairs major to be involved. I'm a history and political science major, but I've taken classes through the Jackson School. I also think the school is interesting in that while it is a school for public policy for graduate students, a lot of their programming, especially their centers and their initiatives, are centered towards both graduate and undergraduate like expansion and outreach. Like for example, the Jackson School is the hub for anyone interested in anything military oriented, any strategic initiatives. It's also a great hub for anything involved in more intersectional studies. So for example, if you're interested in like AI, emerging technologies, how can governments utilize different technology and machineries and different strategies in order to expand? I think the Jackson School also hosts a ton of lectures that are very popular on campus. Like I went to a couple this semester by David Brooks, who's a very prominent writer, and the seats were absolutely packed. So I think it's a great way for students to go beyond their academics and maybe engage with like actual professionals, which is what the Jackson School caters towards.
That sounds like so cool, thank you. And also I sort of have a follow-up question because I feel like I'm really a community-driven person, and I feel like also I like the sense that New Haven is really tied to Yale University, and like one of my main sort of interests in high school is all sort of about food and about like food insecurity, and I heard like there's, I think, I don't exactly remember what it's called, but something about Yale Pizza Club and something about sustainable farms, and I just want to know like kind of more.
Yeah, so that's really cool. What you're talking about, I think, is the Yale Sustainable Food Program, and we also have what's called the Yale Farm, which is about, it's a very small, like about an acre, where we grow like different vegetables, and there's like high tunnels and things like that. And then we also have pizza ovens, and it's really awesome space because Yale students on Fridays, there's a work day every Friday, and students can go, I think it's like noon to 3 and help out just with like random chores on the farm. It's a really opportunity to be outside, especially when the weather's nice, and like get your hands dirty and like do something that's like for your community in a sense. And then it's also a student job to help make those pizzas, and they use different ingredients from the farm, so they'll put like random radishes and greens and things on that. And they always like make a really delicious variety. Like I'm always very stunned by how well everything turns out, because you don't always expect it to taste so good. And they serve like fresh pizza, and then they are, I think Yale students in general are really good at like tying in different people's like strengths and different like organizations together. And so they have like the work day, which then transitions into like this pizza time on Fridays. And they also take it a step further and bring in like interesting conversations as well through what they call need to knows, and it's like need spelled like pizza, kneading the dough. So it's like a bit of play on words there. But they'll often have like an alumni or a student club or organization come and present on a specific topic. So I went to one a couple weeks ago that was about like salt farming dunes and like I don't even know. It was really interesting. And so she talks about like the art and the science of that. There's always a musical performance too. And so they have different like on campus musical groups come up to the farm, and so it'll be like a presentation. After the presentation there's music, and the whole time people are eating pizza, and it's right at the end of a long work day. And so it's a really awesome way of bringing things together. And then like you're talking about, there's also a lot of avenues for collaboration between New Haven and Yale. I would say that doesn't happen quite as much specifically at the Yale farm, but if you're interested in these things, I would also look up Dwight Hall, which is what I was talking about earlier, and this is kind of like the center for those programs that are focused on like New Haven and Yale connections.
Yeah, to add on to what Greta is saying, like through Dwight Hall, there is a specific club called the Yale Hunger and Homeless Action Project, which is called White Hat. And what we do is it's really low commitment, and I know that you're interested in like combating food insecurity. Me and my roommate will like sign up for a shift to basically like go to the dining halls and like get food and like prepare, and it's basically a soup kitchen, and then like deliver this food like to New Haven communities. And it's like these like little activities that kind of add up, and you know, you can really create a change for people in the communities. And it's not like you have to be on board to do this. It's just if you want to join, you can. So I think that's like something really unique that you can look into and like other Dwight Hall programming.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm actually planning to like maybe volunteer at the farm during the summer, so yes, really looking forward to that, and thank you all.
Hi, I have a question about directed studies because I have been invited and plan to take it. So I wonder if you guys or any of your friends took directed studies, how was the experience?
Yeah, so my roommate, who actually is a classics major, decided to go the directed studies route, and I also have another roommate who is a history major who also did directed studies. And actually another friend who's a biomedical engineering major who did directed studies. So for those of you who don't know, directed studies is a special program we offer for first years at Yale, where essentially lets you do a lot of liberal arts-based classes over kind of like English, writing, philosophy, things like that, your first year. It's very intensive, so it's the majority of your schedule your first year, but kind of the benefit of doing directed studies is that it's a very small, tight-knit cohort, and it's really taught by some like the most revered professors from all over the world. In short, directed studies is a hard program. It's very intensive, there's a lot of reading for it, but I don't think I know any, like of those three, at least all of them have walked away from the program being really happy that they did it. On the more emotional side of things, it's like, you know, pretty impressive to be able to go through all of that and be able to have another tight-knit community at Yale and really, you know, get that experience from top professors. But on the flip side of things, if you're, say, like a biomedical engineering major, you're probably not as inclined or as interested in some of those writing courses or having to do it down the line in your senior year. But by doing directed studies your first year, you've pretty much knocked out all of the requirements you need for your distributional requirements. And so it ends up being very helpful. And so then for those next 3 years, you can focus on what you love or what you newly found out that you love. Because maybe that person doesn't want to do biomedical engineering anymore. Now they know they don't have to go through 2-3 years of trying to find out.
Yeah, just to add on to what LaShore is saying, I know that you want to major in like neuroscience and classic, and like originally coming in, I like applied to be like in the directed studies, and I got off the wait list like in August. And I think that personally, I didn't choose to be in directed studies only because I wanted to like kind of explore also my like STEM courses in like the first year, and I think that's also totally fine to be able to do both and not be limited to directed studies. But I also know people who fell in love with directed studies and loved reading Gilgamesh and all these classic texts. So I think it's really about like for you personally, like really deciding like how much of your first year you want to dedicate to that, and especially like as like a humanities and like STEM major, I think it's really important to leave yourself like the room to explore. But that was my rationale. But yeah.
I think another important thing to keep in mind is that when you're taking the directed studies like set, you're required to like take those classes specifically. And so I will say I have like a ton of friends who took directed studies and really enjoyed it, and like really got a ton out of the program, and it's like changed what they study. Actually, one of my friends like switches major after because he enjoyed it so much. But I also have a friend who started in directed studies and ended up dropping out, and I think he was a lot happier after he made that decision because he didn't want to be in those classes. He wouldn't have been taking them unless he was like in the program. So I think you really have to consider like, are you wanting to take philosophy classes? And if that's a no, then maybe it's actually not for you because it is going to be a big time commitment. It is going to mean that you're going to have to like put in a lot of like effort, and like it means that you literally are limited in what other classes you can take because you don't only have so much room in your schedule. And so your freshman year, that means that you're going to have to give up a lot of time to those classes specifically. So if you're one of those people that wants to take those classes, which if you're a classics major, this actually might be true, then you're probably going to get a lot out of it, and like a lot of skills as well as like fulfillment. But if it's something that you're like not actually that interested in, don't put yourself through it. Like you'll be better if you just drop out, I think.
I would say that the number one advice I got about DS, when I was also deliberating between the two, is of the 3 classes you're required to take in the first semester and second semester, if you dislike even one of them or you see yourself not enjoying it to the fullest, or if you look at the course like registration at Yale and you're like, I'd rather take these classes over this specific class, then DS should not be for you. I think people who take DS, they fully commit themselves to the conversations taking place in those seminars. They're fully interested in the readings. But the people I've met who either dropped out of DS or disliked the way the curriculum was structured, it was usually because they fell out of love with one of the subjects being taught. So really go through the syllabus for each of those classes, read through the course, like what readings are required, and if you find yourself kind of hesitant about any one of those things, then I would say take that as a sign, kind of.
Yeah, but just to reiterate, like I would say my friend who dropped out, that was like 1 out of 10. So don't like hold back from it. Just like if you're in the program and you don't like it, then don't be afraid to switch in that first, like, we have like the reading period week at Yale, which is like, you have like a week or 2 where you can take the classes and like shop them and drop out of them. So that's a good opportunity to see if you enjoy them or see if you prefer to be in something else.
Okay, thank you guys so much. That's extremely helpful. And I also have another question about the work-life balance at Yale. And more specifically, like how much time do you guys spend on academics and how much sleep do you guys get?
I'd like to think I get like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I go to bed at like maybe like my average Yale schedule, I'm in bed by like midnight or 1, and then I'm up at like 8 or 9. I think one thing that really helped with the work-life balance is picking your classes. I know in high school that was something that none of us were afforded the opportunity, but in college you can. And so for me, I personally don't take any classes until 10:30. So I go to bed late and I wake up late, and that's okay because I can still make my classes at 10:30. I think that's something that's really important, especially if you're going to be at Yale in the fall. Like, be very intentional about like how you're building your schedule, because as I said earlier, you want to be able to take breaks. I don't recommend taking like 3 classes straight. I think people get super tired, they don't pay attention in lecture. So I think like balancing work life, take breaks, but also like when you're making your schedule, that's probably the most important thing to keep in mind.
Well, yeah, also as a neuroscience major, I can tell you, like, never, like, take all STEM courses or, like, build your schedule to, like, get through everything at once. Because I think that's something I realized, because the neuroscience major is, like, one of the most rigorous majors. Like, it requires, like, over 17 credits or something. I don't even remember. But I think because of that, I thought that, like, so sophomore fall, for example, I thought that, like, okay, in order for me to get the most out of my Yale experience and get through my major, I need to like take stats, human brain, like organic chemistry. Like I was like taking all STEM courses, and that semester I like completely burned out, and that's when I dropped pre-med, and like it was just like a rough time for me. Whereas this semester I like really focused on building my schedule so it contained a balance of like neuro classes, and also I took humanities classes and a history class. So I think like yeah, the work-life balance has to do with like how you pick your classes for sure too, because you should challenge yourself, but also know that like it's really easy to burn out at Yale, and it's better in the long run to like choose classes that will make you more like balanced, I guess.
And I do know registration for the freshmen this year will be during the summer, so before you guys get on campus, which is different from previous years. I don't know how it's gonna go, but one thing to look out for is for your classes, when you think you have a general idea of, oh, this is the schedule I want to try in the fall, look at all of the major deadlines, so your paper deadlines, so your history and classics, like you'll have a lot of papers, or any of your PSET classes, because those are usually weekly, so think about how many weekly assignments you'll have. I tend to stick to 3. I think that's when I can fully commit to all my classes to the extent that I'm happy with, and make sure your final schedule is like manageable, because sometimes you'll have back-to-back-to-back finals, and it can be a little bit difficult, and if you can kind of gauge that from the beginning, it's a little easier.
As you're thinking about like class registration stuff specifically, I would also say, I'm sure you guys have been told this, but definitely reach out to your FROCOs now. Mine was really responsive over the summer, and I think that's something that you're gonna like want help with course registration, because there's a lot of like little details like the applying for classes and things like that you'll want their help with. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out to them. I'm sure they'll be telling you this as well, but.
Yeah, that's so true. Text me,
Reach out to your
reach out to your program. I just want to add in more on the work-life balance. I don't know if this is working. Here. Oh, yep. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is something someone said to me on the first week at Yale, is that you should treat meeting people, having conversations, and hanging out with people as its own class. Because as a freshman, it is such a rush going in. Like you're kind of just like dropped into this whole new world, and it is a lot all at once with course registration, balancing classes, meeting with professors, assignments. But I think a lot of things that people forget to make space for is to actually make friends and like hang out and do extracurriculars. So I would recommend like whatever amount of classes you think you are prepared for in the fall, like subtract by 1, because you will need so much time. Like I think freshman year is like the best time to meet with people, meeting professors, meeting students. And I would say you should treat it with a level of importance that you may not think at the moment is something you should afford it. But when you get there at Yale, you'll understand how important it is to have a social life and actually like go beyond just academics, go beyond the library, and like really talk to people and have genuine conversations. And I would say that should be like, at Yale you have 5 credits a semester. One credit of it should be just talking to people, like your freshman fall. So I would say that's some really good advice I got my freshman year.
It'll really pay off in the long run if you invest in that, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question.
Thank you, and I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Mandy. I'm in 9th grade, and I'm interested in like how did you choose your major? Like because like currently I'm interested in everything like physics, biology, and psychology, philosophy. I'm interested in like everything, and I don't know like how to choose, and it's a very difficult process for me. And I also have a question that what's driven you to Yale, like that specific college or university, and I think that's a very difficult life decision. So yeah, I just want to know.
I can start. So when I was in high school, I think I was similar to you. I had interest in physics, philosophy, all those courses as well. What I kind of asked myself was, in terms of like a job and like studying for 4 years, what can I honestly see myself being happy and okay with studying for 4 years straight? And when I asked myself the question, I didn't have an answer, right? I was just constantly wondering like, oh my God, maybe there's gonna be some moment, something that clicks for me. What, in that process of kind of just thinking about what was right for me, I started to just talk to other people. And I think that's what really ended up working for me. And so I knew I was kind of interested in STEM, broadly speaking, and so I knew that I wanted to get into research a little bit. And so what I did was kind of how we talked about getting involved with research on campus. I started looking into different hospitals around my area, different research institutions, and just reading through some of the research that was being done. And in that process, I realized that biomedical engineering, like the intersection of engineering and medicine, was something that was really interesting to me. And later on, I really was interested in the policy side of things, like global policy. When I came to Yale, I took a global affairs class, and I hated it. I realized it was not for me. I was really bad at global affairs, and at the same time that I enrolled in that class, I was also enrolled in an economics course, and I fell in love with it. And so for me, then I pivoted to doing biomedical engineering and health and economics, seeing how we could do healthcare finance. So that's how I came about my major. And the second part of your question was, why did I choose Yale? There's a lot of reasons, but I would say when I was choosing between the schools, I got into Yale and I got into some higher level engineering, really technical institutions. What I realized very quickly on is that education at all of these top schools is exactly the same. If you look at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, whatever, the quality of education you're getting is pretty much the same. You're learning from the same textbooks and it's standardized. What you need to look at beyond that is what can the school provide you in terms of opportunities and community and all those things. So if you were to ask me in high school, oh, LaShore, do you care about collaboration and community? My honest response was, no, I don't. I just want to go to the best school possible. But it's true. That's all I cared about. But when I thought about it from this lens, that the education is going to be exactly the same, you come to appreciate those experiences. I mean, us as first and second years, we've been able to go across the world on Yale's dime and meet you guys and meet some of the most amazing people and stories. I don't think you can say that at a lot of other schools. And so that's why I chose Yale and why I choose it again in a heartbeat.
I can also answer. I mean, I came into Yale pre-med. I had only ever known medicine the 4 years I was in high school. I was so involved in physics, chemistry, biology, anatomy. And right before my senior year, I was working on this research fellowship that was I was working on a research paper, I was involved in this lab, and halfway through I just completely had a breakdown and I was I can't do medicine anymore. This is not what's fulfilling me. I'm not happy working in the lab every single day, working with mice, working with rats, working with I worked with vultures too. And it was just I was not happy, and that's when I realized what really fulfilled me was history and learning about the humanities. And senior year, when I was into my college applications, what I realized was if I'm not happy with what I study and say something happens to me in college and I have to drop out, or after college I'm not employed, what is something that'll make me happy? I need to pursue a job there. I trusted in myself enough to know that I can take initiative, I can do what it takes to be employed post-grad. But it was but would I be truly happy? And I think when it comes to deciding majors, like me, I still enjoy the sciences, I enjoy the humanities, but I know that if all else was taken away from me, if I had to suddenly leave Yale, if I graduated Yale with one major and I was still unemployed somehow, but I knew that I could take myself up and find a job, it was history and humanities and having those conversations. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think just choose what makes you happy, because in the end, there's a saying if you do what you love, it's never going to be work. And I think post-grad, that is so important, is your happiness and your well-being.
Yeah. I'll really quickly add to that as well. I think I was in a really similar position as you, and honestly still am, where I find enjoyment in so many different subjects. And I think hearing from these people, and from a lot of other people as well, for some people you'll have a big moment where you realize this is my major, this is what I want to do. But for other people, that's not necessarily the case. And I think one of the amazing things about going to a liberal arts college like Yale is that you can study a lot of different things and kind of see what you enjoy. And I think for me, I was kind of my freshman year of I'm going to go in undecided, I'm going to try a bunch of different things, see what I like. And by the end of that, I was still kind of undecided. I felt I enjoyed all of my classes and there wasn't anything that specifically was speaking to me. But at some point, you do have to choose a major. And so then I think what comes in next is thinking about what classes do I want to actually take, and then prioritize which majors will allow me to take the most of those classes or allow me the most flexibility so I can take other things. I think something really important to note is that your major, for at least most careers, is not as important as you think it is, especially at an institution like Yale. It's special that you're going to an institution like Yale, and the connections that you make there are probably going to be more important than the name of your major on your certificate. And so also think not only about the classes, but also what faculty you're going to be interacting with, because you're often, if you have a professor you really like, if you're in a major that falls under that class, you're probably going to have the opportunity to take more classes with them. So think about the community that you want, and look for that in your major as well.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for asking some amazing questions. It was a treat to be able to answer them for you guys. And yeah, 谢谢，再见。
Thank you. I was maybe I just want add one more questions because of the such vibrant group and the people here. So why what brings you here in China? What do you do in China for this time?
Right, I got that.
Yeah, so right now, last week we were in Shenzhen, China, hosting a Yale Model United Nations conference. We at Yale host multiple Model UN conferences around the world, but we have our main one in China. We hosted at the Shenzhen Foreign Language School, and so we were there last week, and we ran the conference. We had about 450 delegates from across 10 different countries, and so it was a super rewarding experience, and now we're just here in Beijing. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're interested in attending this conference, it will be happening next year too, probably around the same time. So you can look at our website.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so this is it for the whole session. So thank you so much for everyone's great question, and also I think we have a very youngest gravers with the great questions. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody's available time. Just one last thing. If you are interested in seeing Li Shore one more time, but in a different shape, not sitting here and talking, but sitting in a chair with cello playing, we will have the Low Strung concert this Saturday afternoon. So you can find more information on either Yale Center Beijing website or Yale Center Beijing WeChat account. And we look forward to see you in this Saturday. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll just say one more really quick last thing. I looked it up just so there's no inconsistencies and confusion, but Yale does have a test flexible policy. So if you took AP or IB and you did well on those, you're able to submit those instead of SAT or ACT, at least as of now.